Tax breaks.
There's my house.
Fortunately, we didn't plan for this kind of turnout, so we don't have enough beer for everyone. But we have a couple of things we'd like to let you guys know in on. Without you folks, Baltimore Beer Week would not exist. So thank you so much for coming out today. It's a great honor to have you guys come.
All right.
There's a couple of us that organize it, but we have to say this was a surprise to us when Dominic put this idea together. He shot it to me in an email at 2 in the morning, and he goes, "What do you think?" And I said, "I love it. Who's going to do it?" He goes, "Us." Like, I got too much shit on my plate already. So, but David, please step right up right here. This gentleman opened the doors for us today.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Shenanigans up here, but it's really an honor to be considered part of Beer Week, so thank you.
Awesome.
All right.
Sorry, I wasn't a good host, I didn't buy enough beer, but we have free restrooms. I try to make it up to you, and other than that, enjoy. Brewers Hill's been great for us, and if you have any questions about it, feel free to flag me down. And thanks for including us, guys.
Awesome.
Thank you, David. All right.
So,
Daryl.
Dominic, at 2 in the morning when we dreamed this crap up, what did you come up with?
Well, it was the night before Beer Week, and you know we were we were kind of getting started, and you know a lot of visions run through your head. You're thinking, you know, what's going to go on, what's going to be successful, what's not. And being the poet that I am, I decided to write a little poem to kick off Beer Week. Now this was written the night before Beer Week, and no, I was not drinking.
Yes.
But I only had one. No one believes that. I only had one glass. But here's how it went. It was the night before Beer Week, and all throughout town, the drinkers were perched in their beds without frown. They dreamed of porters, IPAs and stout, lambics and pilsners, for soon they would shout. At opening tap, the firkin will screech when the star-spangled banger creates the first breach. The ale will flow, and the people will cheer. Huzzah! For the love of the scene, and more so the beer. Baltimore is richer for Beer Week, we know. 11 days in October has started to grow. Our sponsors are gracious and definitely most giving to support all things beer in the land of pleasant living.
Yay!
Nicely done. Masterful.
I knew he was a poet, especially when he's sober.
All right, my name is Rob Kasper. I'm writing a book about the history of brewing in Maryland and Baltimore, especially with focus on Baltimore. So I've done a little research into this operation, and Baltimore being Baltimore, I've coached the kids of the Hofberger family. So there are all these connections. In 1855, this brewery was taken over by Henry and Levi Strauss, who actually sold malt. Malt, they took over a lot of breweries at that time because the brewers couldn't pay the malter. So guess who ended up owning it? Not unlike our mortgage situation today. In 1933, the Hofberger family took it over. The Hofbergers were a well-established family in Baltimore. They had coal, they had ice. They were well-recognized all around the city. Many breweries in Baltimore tried to survive in Prohibition by making ice. They were one of them. In 1947, a young family member named Jerry Hofberger reluctantly was put in charge of the brewery. He said he would take it over if only he got to call the shots. And he did. He hired two men who basically are responsible in many accounts for the success of National Premium. Arthur Deutsch, who was a marketer from New York, and Karl Keitler, who was a fastidious brewer, a German, of course. There were two basic reasons National Premium succeeded. One was they had an incredibly friendly and personal management style. Jerry Hoffberger played tennis with his chief executives every week, and that after the tennis match he would go over as to how they were doing that week. Secondly, they had an amazing marketing strategy. As you might know, there was this man named Mr. Boh, whom they figured out was a character they needed to create. They also created, of course, Mr. Pills. And at that time, Hoffberger later owned the Orioles, and the breweries hired the announcer. So Chuck Thompson, who for years was an announcer for that brewery across the street, Gunther, when the Orioles were a minor league team. And I interviewed Chuck a few years before he died, and he said when he came down here to get the interview to be the voice of the Orioles, he didn't think he was going to get it because he didn't know it for years as the voice of Gunther Beer. Instead, he was. He got the job. They also hired a guy named Jim McManus, an Evening Sun reporter. Nobody knew much about him. It was this brand new world called television. And he gave her the first television broadcast in Baltimore, locally produced on Channel 2, was the National Sports Review. Jim McManus went on to a pretty good career. He changed his name to Jim McKay and became My World of Sport. All started at National Premium. The brew was amazingly successful, and as I said, they owned the Orioles, and it was their habit at every homestand to give the Oriole players 2 cases of product. Now, not all of the players on the clubs drank, and some members of the team regarded it as their personal responsibility to relieve the temptation. And Mr. Boh Tower said he relieved a lot of temptation. In 1954, this brewery had 60% of the Baltimore market. They had people that would go into bars, they were called drummers, and they would say, everybody in the bar, I'll buy you 2 beers. 1 beer, the beer of your choice, the other beer, National Premium or National Boh. And that's how they created the market. If there were a Knights of Columbus gathering, a PTA gathering, a Sons of Anything gathering in a neighborhood, and that was your responsibility, you, as the National Premium salesman or National salesman, had to be there, had to be pouring your beer. And in return for that, he gave them Hoffberger gave them amazing benefits. He sent them on salesmen on exotic vacations with their families. It was an incredibly loyal operation. However, things were changing in the beer market. What was happening is, because of modernization and because of television, regional beers became national products. So if you brewed a beer in Milwaukee, it used to be you could only brew it in Milwaukee, and pretty much your sales area was restricted. But because of modernization and because you could ship a beer on cans and highways and television, your national beer campaigns took over. Now, National Premium fought very valiantly. Some of you might remember Colt 45.
Malt liquor.
Yes, it was a malt liquor, and it had some amazingly clever advertising campaigns, which won Emmy awards. We had Red Fox, and also used to have the fellow that would go out in a bull ring, and the beer would hit, the bull would hit him, and he'd pour himself a beer. It was called a completely unique experience. I think the real, the salesman for National told me that the real reason Colt 45 sold well because it was LPR. I said, LPR? He said, yeah, the college boys all called it liquid pants remover. It was 6% alcohol. Well, and so things did not go well for National, and other regional breweries were under attack. And one of the sure signs was the diminishment of the Shires. Now, the Shires were these beautiful horses that were purchased to compete with a certain brewery from St. Louis. I'll mention them. but they were bought in 1972, and by 1975, the brewery had to let them go, and they were housed in stables out in the county. In 1975, Carlin bought the brewery. They had already built a plant in 1961 on the Beltway. In 1971, Carlin was sold to G. Heilman, and National Premium and National Natty Boh and all those just became one of the Heilman family of beers. I have a brochure from that. Heilman is so confident they're going to conquer the world with this family of beers. In 1996, they were sold to Stroh's. In 1999, Stroh's ceased brewing and National Premium died. But we have here Mr. Tim Miller from Easton. Wave your hand, Tim.
All right.
Resurrect the
You got it, man.
We'll talk about that. It's right over there. In 1876, Christian Gunther established the brewery, and they
Oh, okay. I thought they were using the folding.
Yellow steeple.
I don't see it. Oh, I see it. I